President Muhammadu Buhari orders a crackdown on banditry as Nigerian Air Force destroys Boko Haram manufacturing facility.
Never again a nation are we going to allow the wanton diversion and embezzlement of public funds to private pockets.
Audit Committee on Recovery and Management of Stolen Assets inaugurated.
Medium-term expenditure framework and fiscal strategy paper passes second reading at the House of Representatives. Healthcare exists in the country is to ensure, reasons why government exists actually is to ensure the security and well-being of citizens, the provision of quality, affordable and accessible healthcare, particularly at the primary level, which is one of the avenues through which this is expressed.
Now, the purpose of primary healthcare as conceptualized by the Alma-Ata Declaration of 1978 speaks to the reason, of course, why primary healthcare should be available. Now, this is because of its grassroots approach towards universal and equitable healthcare solutions that are promotive, preventive, curative, or rehabilitative, as the case may be.
Yes, Kingsley, and you can recall that the goal of the National Health Policy of 1987, which was reversed, that's in 2016, has provision for primary healthcare services anchored on education, food supply and nutrition, maternal and child care, family planning, immunization, prevention and control of diseases, and provision of essential drugs and supplies.
Now, these are quite clearly lofty objectives. Now, but to what extent have they been fulfilled? Now, records indicate that there are some 30,000 primary healthcare establishments across the country. But sadly, only about 20% are said to be operational. Now, the rest, as you guess, are comatose.
You can say that again, Kingsley. And the collapsed infrastructure, absence of trained medical personnel, poor funding, poor intersectorial collaboration and conflicts between tiers of government, lack of community participation, amongst others, have been cited for the clear collapse of primary health care in Nigeria.
Well, indeed, the questions are many, but let's begin to pop some of them. How did the situation deteriorate to this level? Now, what are the many challenges of primary health care delivery in the country, and how are they being addressed? What new approach is the current administration adopting to ensure sustainable and reliable primary healthcare system in the country? Well, these are some of the questions we shall be seeking answers to from our guests on the program.
And also on the program today, we shall look at the sad development in Adamawa State, where a suicide attack at a mosque in Mubi town left many dead.
Well, that attack in Mubi and similar ones in the northeast have again raised concerns on the apparent resurgence of Boko Haram since the Nigerian armed forces substantially degraded the outfit.
Well, the question is, what are the factors behind these attacks? Is there laxity among citizens and security agencies? How can these coordinated attacks be dealt with, and what is the response to victims of this carnage? We shall also seek to provide answers to these questions with our guests this morning in the studio. Welcome to Good Morning Nigeria. I am Rhoda Anonam.
And I'm Kingsley Osadola. I also join Rhoda in welcoming you to the program. We are reaching you from the Abuja headquarters studios of the Nigerian Television Authority. Now, in the course of the program, we shall bring to you our regular companion segments, including newspaper review, business, sports, foreign, and others. Now, let's go over to our newsroom to take a look at the stories that we highlighted earlier. And our caster this morning is Ogwa Vivian Oyedibia. Hi, Ogwa.
Hi, Kinsley and Rhoda. Good morning, Nigeria. Welcome to the news. President Muhammadu Buhari has ordered a military crackdown on bandits operating in rural communities in Zamfara State, following fresh attacks on some communities in Shinkafi and Maradun local government areas. The president has also approved the request of Minister of Defense Mansour Dan Ali for the stationing of a full battalion of special forces in Zamfara State and the operationalization of the newly established 8th Division of the Nigerian Army in Sokoto, as well as the movement of the 1 Brigade from Sokoto to Gusau. A statement by the Senior Special Assistant to the President on Media and Publicity, Garba Shehu, says the President has equally approved the setting up of an intelligence fusion center in Maiduguri for the purpose of gathering and sharing intelligence among the security agencies in the country, adding that the face of the war on terror will be intelligence-driven, and the new center is expected to intensify the harvesting and sharing of intelligence so as to bring to an early closure the desperate last-minute activities of terrorists. Meanwhile, the Nigerian Air Force says it has successfully destroyed a Boko Haram terrorist facility for manufacturing of improvised explosive devices. The facility, said to be in a place known as Yawe Forest, located 23 kilometers south of Konduga in Borno State, was discovered through intelligence, surveillance and reconnaissance of the Air Force. An Air Force statement said the air bombardment of the bomb-making facility led to the killing of an unspecified number of insurgents in the process. And finding a lasting solution to the incessant cases of communal clashes dominated proceedings on the floor of the Senate. National Assembly correspondent Dennis Adegunloye reports that this followed a motion moved by Senator representing Zamfara North, Tijani Kaura, on the killings of 23 people in a violent rampage by armed bandits in Shinkafi local government area of Zamfara State.
The need for collaborative effort between the federal and state government to come up with a definite policy on protecting its citizens.
This is affecting the direct foreign investment. People are no more coming to Nigeria to invest because of this. It's also affecting our tourism industry.
In a situation where we have a state police who are who are bred and who are born and brought up from that particular community, it will take care of a lot of things.
We should have either an ad hoc committee or a serious-minded committee, and then invite the public discourse. And even if we have to have a public hearing.
The senators that have this privilege to be in this committee, you are carrying a huge responsibility for this country.
Well, in the meantime, the federal government has vowed to ensure that never again will the wanton diversion and embezzlement of public assets witnessed in the past be allowed in Nigeria's national life. State House correspondent Adamu Sambo reports that President Muhammadu Buhari stated this while inaugurating the Audit Committee on the Recovery and Management of Stolen Assets within and outside Nigeria.
The committee, in essence, is therefore expected to undertake an audit of all recovered accounts established by government agencies from the date opening such accounts up to 10th April 2017. I hereby direct and request all relevant ministries, departments, and agencies, banks and companies to give the committee full cooperation, as your assignment is crucial not only to the harvesting of needed resources for our national development, but also in setting out a fresh template of public accountability. Never again as a nation are we going to allow the wanton diversion and embezzlement of public funds to private pockets.
At the Federal Executive Council yesterday, the federal government approved the procurement of 50 Toyota Hilux vehicles for the Special Mining Surveillance Task Force at 987 million naira. This is to put an end to illegal mining operations across Nigeria so that the sector can contribute more to the nation's gross domestic product for sustainable economic development. State House correspondent Adamu Sambo reports that council presided over by President Muhammadu Buhari observed a moment of silence in honor of the late Vice President of Nigeria, Dr. Alex Ekweme.
If we can stop the spate of illegal activities, not just by Nigerians, but by Nigerians in collaboration with some foreigners, we would significantly improve the revenue that comes from that sector, increase the contribution to GDP, increase the royalty to government, and also provide more jobs for our people.
Well, with just a step ahead, Nigeria is taking the back seat in the global nutrition rating. To change the trend and realize full health, social and economic benefits of improved nutrition, a National Council on Nutrition has been inaugurated by Vice President Yemi Osinbajo. The council, which is the highest decision-making body on food and nutrition, is expected to spearhead and oversee interventions in addressing Nigeria's national challenges. Also inaugurated is the National Food and Nutrition Policy, adopted in April 2016 by a coalition of stakeholders.
Nutrition has its work cut out in implementation, collaboration, and communication. We bear the burden of very high expectations. Nigeria must make speedy and visible progress in its fight against hunger, malnutrition, and other nutritional challenges. As part of this, we must ensure that the new National Food and Nutrition Policy is quickly domesticated at state level in every state of the Federation and the FCT.
The House of Representatives has passed for second reading the medium-term expenditure framework and fiscal strategy paper and referred to the relevant committees for further legislative action.
It should have formed the basis of what the budget that is laid will be.
It is important we look at our gauge. How far have we done in the last one compared to the assumption of what we have today?
I believe that we need to take this document, look at this document, have a proper conversation on this document.
Because of the greater picture and the bigger picture and the good of our country, I believe members should stand that objective down, and moving forward, the right thing will be done.
Well, that's the news for now. Good morning, Nigeria. We'll be back with Rhoda and Kingsley after this break.
Unemployment, notably youth unemployment, features strongly in our party's manifesto. We intend to attack the problem frontally through revival of agriculture.
The 30K is going a long way. Actually, I bought an acre of land for 60K like 2012, and presently I have a cassava farm and a yam farm.
Everybody comes to the city to seek greener pasture. No, not everybody. Many people also run away from their home villages in search of refuge and peace in the city. These people are running away from archaic customs and traditions, draconian village practices that have in one way or the other made them victims of circumstances based on cultural practices.
It sounds like a tale out of the medieval era.
Oh yes, keep a date with us this week on Professor John Bull in this episode titled Running to the City, and discover how Boam and Nje escaped to become part and parcel of Professor John Bull's household and proximate people. Also, find out why Jumoke will love Jeroboam instead of Flashboy.
Oh, my baby shawarma with a dash and a style. Move like a flash, baby.
Over and out.
Brought to you by Glow.
The largest data network, Glow Unlimited.
This is Nigeria, a nation fast developing its potentials. Nigeria is developing, and you have a part to play in nation building. Declare your assets and income today in the Voluntary Assets and Income Declaration Scheme, VADE, which is on till March 31, 2018.
When you honestly declare your assets and income and regularize your tax status through VADES, the government will have more resources to build a better Nigeria.
Declaration before December 31, 2017 attracts no interest, no penalties, no tax prosecution, and no tax audit. Visit www.vades.gov.ng or the nearest tax office for more information. This message is brought to you by the federal government, Federal Inland Revenue Service, and the State Boards of Internal Revenue. VADES, I declare, my duty, my nation.
Whenever pain occurs, you want quick relief. Try new Nurofen Express. It goes to the source of pain and gets to work in under 15 minutes. That's why Nurofen Express delivers fast and effective relief. New Nurofen Express works at the source of pain, fast.
Being a mom is great, but when your child has a fever, you don't know what to do. I trust Nurofen for Children to take care of my child's pain and fever.
Effective relief you can trust.
Helen! Your kitchen gets 10 out of 10.
Thank you.
This also gets a 10. Should we see the toilet now?
Sure.
This gets just 1.
It is clean.
But not perfect 10.
Better than my detergent and bleach? Impossible.
Challenge? Try the new Apic 10X.
Compared to bleach and detergent, Apic sticker formulation removes yellow stains times better, giving you a sparkling clean toilet.
Wow.
Now you also take that
Apic 10X challenge.
Also available in 200 ml pack.
Cold and flu can spread through the contact of hands. And in such situations, I can't risk falling ill. So I recommend Dettol, as it protects from up to 100 illness-causing germs. That's why I want to be Dettol sure. Dettol, be 100%.
Kehinde suffers from indigestion. His twin Taiyi suffers from heartburn. Sometimes it's the other way around, or both. That's why they use Gaviscon Double Action. It soothes within 3 minutes and lasts for up to 4 hours. For double relief from heartburn and indigestion, Gaviscon Double Action.
All right, you're welcome back. Let's take some business news now. The Central Bank Governor Godwin Emefiele is optimistic of a single-digit inflation rate in the year 2018. Plus, midweek trading on the floor of the Nigerian Stock Exchange ends in the green. Kolo Mohammed is our guide for details of the stories.
Hello, good morning. Thank you for joining us on Business News. The Central Bank of Nigeria says monetary indicators are looking up. The governor of Nigeria Central Bank, Godwin Emefiele, said exiting recession in the second quarter of 2017 was a prediction that many thought not tenable. In the same vein, he is optimistic that inflation rates will be down to single digit in 2018. The governor gave the assurance while speaking to business correspondents shortly after the last Monetary Policy Committee's meeting for 2017.
We are working, the Monetary Policy Committee is working very hard on this, and with the support of other important policy makers, we are optimistic that we will get there. When we talked about exiting the recession during the second quarter, many people did not believe us. Let's hope that as we say that we're going to hit a good digit by next year, this forecast or this prophecy will also come to pass.
It will be recalled that inflation rates have been going down consecutively in the last few months. As part of efforts to explore development strategies that will enhance competitiveness as well as support the present administration's social investment program aimed at pulling as many as possible people from poverty onto the path of social safety net, the federal government and Japan signed a grant aid on economy and social development worth 642 million naira. The Minister of Budget and National Planning, Udoma, who signed on behalf of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, said the program will support the current social investment initiative of the federal government and also improve the standard of living by ensuring environmental sustainability as encapsulated in the Economic Recovery and Growth Plan of the federal government. And midweek trading on the floor of the Nigerian Stock Exchange ended in the green as NSE All-Share Index gained 0.02% to close at 36,608.76 basis points. Up ahead is a graphic representation of how trading went down on Wednesday. And that's it on Business News. Good Morning Nigeria continues right after now. Thanks for watching.
Thank you very much, Kolo Mohammed. Time now for us to take a look at the stories that made headlines on some of the dailies we have this morning.
Bayo Atebe, newspaper reviewer, is right here with us for today's edition of the review segment. Bayo, good morning and welcome.
Good morning, Casey. Thank you. Good morning, Ruda.
Good morning.
Good morning, Nigeria.
All right, Ruda, let's begin with you. We have different papers, 5 of them, I believe, and the front pages, of course, have a few common stories, but the lead stories are certainly not uniform.
Yeah, not at all. Certainly not uniform, but just a few of them are uniform. I'd like to begin with the New Telegraph. And the New Telegraph, just below the nameplate, let's take a look first of all at the lead story on the New Telegraph. And it reads this way. 2019 presidency, Tinubu to governors, you lack powers to endorse Buhari. With a couple of riders there, no governor can appropriate the powers of endorsement to himself. President Buhari is a believer in due process. The Buhari I know believes in the rule of law and due process. That's the lead story on the New Telegraph. Now let's go over to the Independent. The Independent captions the same story this way. 2019 polls, no automatic ticket for Buhari. Statement there credited to Tinubu says governors can't make him APC flag bearer. Reunites with Afenifere in historic move. That's a story that is on page 4 of the Independent. Kings, do you have any?
That's right. The lead story for this day newspaper isn't that, but that story on Tinubu, it's also there on the front page of this day, just below the nameplate. That will therefore be the second lead story considering the point size. It says Tinubu, that's the kicker. APC has not endorsed anyone for 2019 presidential ticket, with the rider reaches out to Afenifere for reconciliation. But the lead story comes like this, with a double-decker headline and a number of riders. Citing gaps in management of recovered assets, Buhari inaugurates audit panel. Citing gaps in management of recovered assets, Buhari inaugurates audit panel and approves new measures to curb terrorism and not going back on arrest of Ekpayong and Oke. Magu insists, and Senate asks President to wade into DSS EFCC face-off to probe the clash. Now, the photograph on the front page of this day shows the chieftains of the APC and Afenifere during the meeting at which Tinubu made a statement where it's been quoted with regard to that. Now, the other story on the front page of the Punch newspaper, which is the lead story for them, actually has to do with what comes as a kicker. It's a running copy. EFCC DSS clash. Sage and Falana berate DSS for stopping Ekpayong and Oke's arrest. That's on page 3 in greater detail. with a rider there that is taken from a quote by Falanon. It says the prevention of the arrest was a clash between impunity and rule of law. The security personnel who shielded the suspects from arrest committed the offense of obstruction of justice, punishable under the EFCC Act. Well, of course, there are a number of other stories. We'll get to those stories.
That same story is also on The Independent, and The Independent reads it this way. It says, no going back on arrest of Ekpeyong, okay, and Mago. Let's begin with the first lead story on some of the papers, and that's the statement credited to APC chieftain there, and of course the Oke and Ekpeyong story.
Okay. Well, Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu was visiting Ondo, and he was put on the spot by seeking his reaction. You recall that in the previous week, a governor has said that 34 of the 36 governors already have endorsed President Muhammadu Buhari for the next election. And so Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu was only reacting that the Buhari I know is a believer in the rule of law and due process, and therefore what he means is that the Buhari will not want the normal process set aside, and he will not want to violate what he described as INEC regulation as well as the APC constitution. It means therefore that the due process will be followed as a means of picking of the APC candidate. Talking about the clash between EFCC and DSS predicated on the attempted arrest of the former Director General, is a clash between security agencies. You recall that even when huge sums were discovered at Osborne Towers, there was almost a clash between EFCC and DSS. There was an attempt to prevail on EFCC not to act, but the EFCC insisted. And already the acting chairman of EFCC has indicated that nobody is above the law, and the law will take its course. In other words, if those former officers have questions to answer, they certainly will be called upon to answer the question.
Yeah, that's one of the writers, Bayo. That's I read that from This Day newspaper. It's one of the writers to the lead story, which is saying, the third one, by the way, says, Senate asks President to wade into DSS, EFCC face-off and also probe clash.
Yes, that was raised on the floor of the Senate by Senator Dino Melaya, because in the area where it happened, it caused a lot of scare and stampede in the area. When
that's yes,
when people around were frightened that there could be a clash between the security agencies.
All right. Okay, let's return to other front pages and other headlines thereon. The Punch. The Punch. We'll take 3 headlines from there very quickly. It says, Nigerian state debts have increased to 4% of GDP. Nigerian state debts have increased to 4% of GDP. That's according to the World Bank, and the story is in greater detail on page 27. But that's the way that story is captioned is different from that of this day. Above the nameplate of these days, it says, address fiscal challenges despite GDP growth. World Bank tells Nigeria. Address fiscal challenges despite GDP growth. World Bank tells Nigeria. And then, of course, here on the front page of the Punch, it is that the state's debts to GDP is now from some 4%. Below that, you have national security structure has collapsed. That's attributed to the Senate. Another one there, I take responsibility for PDP's defeat in 2015. Former President Goodluck Jonathan.
And the Independent, just above the nameplate, it says NNPC secures $3.7 billion alternative financing to improve production. That's a story that's on page 4. And if you take a look at the New Telegraph, just below the nameplate also, it says the federal government loses 3 trillion naira to illegal gold mining and others. That's a statement there credited to Fire Me. Let's take a look at those economic stories.
Well, the economic stories, usually the World Bank, the IMF have always advised, and their role periodically is to advise nations about it. But they are, in just about 3 months back, there have been projections which the World Bank and IMF had put forward and later on had cause to review because they eventually were not correct. So these things are not 1 + 1 that gives you 2. Everybody makes their projection based on certain parameters. And the central bank governor was also on record to have said that from the rate they are going with the monetary policy rate that has been retained, it is expected that even inflation will drop to about 1 figure by middle of next year. So they are part of the economic strategy. The concern raised by the Senate about security is predicated about the series of deaths and attacks, particularly in Mubi. In Mubi for now, the death toll, which was initially 50, has risen to 60. In fact, the governor in Adamawa State has summoned all traditional rulers to a meeting to put in measures. Also, the president has directed that an intelligence fusion be set up in the Maiduguri area to take care of these instances where youths are now becoming the carrier of improvised IEDs.
Yes. I remember
also,
yesterday you
also
read
in Zamfara area. In Zamfara
right.
area. Now the president has also approved that a full battalion of special forces should be moved from Sokoto to Zamfara. Again, bandits and cattle rustling has gone on the increase, and with a death toll of about 20 persons in the past weeks.
Yeah, you did that. Let's just take a look at a couple of further headlines, if you like, from the Punch newspaper. This will be the last. The photograph on the front page of Punch newspaper shows says unpaid pension. That's the kicker for a protest in Osun over retired headmaster's suicide. That's on page 4. They say you have all kinds of placards that the protesters were carrying there. And why December target for 2018 budget passage will fail. That's according to the Senate. There are a number of interesting stories you can also find inside the pages.
There's just one story I want to take from the New Telegraph. Just at the foot of the paper, it says, global crisis looms as malaria drug resistance spread. Global crisis looms as malaria drug resistance spread. That's on page 10, and that's the much we can take on newspaper review segment. Bio, we'll see you again tomorrow morning.
Tomorrow we are another day. Thank you.
All right, we'll take a short break, and when we come back, our first item for discussion this morning is the Mubi attack.
The Federal Ministry of Industry, Trade and Investment, in collaboration with the Federal Ministry of Information and Culture, the Made in Nigeria campaign. In the midst of unprecedented multiple challenges, our great country Nigeria, as Africa's largest economy, is surely marching on to a new era of all-round prosperity, especially through re-engineered and diversified economy, powerfully driven by the change agenda of President Muhammadu Buhari, GCFR.
We will patronize local entrepreneurs. We will promote the manufacturing powerhouses. Our objective is to make Nigeria a new manufacturing hub.
It is not time to complain. It is time to join the campaign. It is time for economic recovery, growth and diversification of our economy by Made in Nigeria.
Hate speech is not a joke. It incites genocide and crimes against humanity. Most of Africa's civil wars are caused by hate speech from one tribe against another. We don't want it here. The Nigerian government stands firm against hate speech.
I was distressed to notice that some of the comments, especially in the social media, have crossed our national red lines by daring to question our collective existence as a nation. This is a step too far.
One nation bound in freedom, peace and unity.
Nigeria, one nation, one people.
This is a public service announcement brought to you by NTA.
Sir Abubakar Tafawa Balewa, Dr. Nnamdi Azikiwe, Sir Ahmadu Bello, Chief Obafemi Awolowo.
These patriots worked together to achieve independence for one united Nigeria. Although some may say Nigeria is a mistake, we all know that the Almighty never makes mistakes.
God has not made a mistake by bringing us all together in the way that He has brought us together. God has put us together here so that we can build a community that will be an example to the entire world.
One nation bound in freedom. peace and unity.
Nigeria, one nation, one people.
This is a public service announcement brought to you by NTA.
All right, welcome back. If you've just joined us, you're watching Good Morning Nigeria on Africa's largest television network, the NTA. And our first item for discussion this morning is on the Mubi bomb blast. About 60 people have been confirmed dead, while over 40 who have sustained various degrees of injuries are responding to treatment as a result of the bomb blast in Adamawa State. But let's get a better understanding from our correspondent, Mohammed.
The ugly incident occurred when Muslim faithful converged on a mosque in Al-Hankunu ward of Mubi town to observe their early morning prayers. According to reports, 2 suicide bombers disguised themselves and entered the mosque, after which they simultaneously detonated the explosive, killing 15 people on the spot. At the time NTA News visited Mubi General Hospital, health workers and relations of victims were seen under a state of confusion. According to the hospital authorities, 6 people later died in the hospital, while 8 with serious injuries were referred to the Federal Medical Center Yola for proper handling. The Northeast Zonal Coordinator of the National Emergency Management Agency, Idris Garga, who was on a rescue mission to Mubi, described the incident as unfortunate, saying that people should be security conscious.
People are supposed to seriously check their neighborhood and know who they interact with. I think this will bring a stop and reduce this thing drastically.
All efforts to get the principal medical officer of the hospital proved abortive. In Yola, Muhammad Saidu, NTA News.
All right, thank you very much, Mohammed, for that report. We, of course, this is some of the scenes there, but we have guests with us here in the studios and also from Adamawa to discuss the broader ramification of this. First, regular face on Good Morning Nigeria, Kabir Adamo, who's a security expert. He's here with us. It's a pleasure to have you join us this morning.
Pleasure to be here.
Thank you.
And we're also being joined via Skype, the Secretary to Adamawa State Government, Dr. Umar Bindu. Thank you for joining us on Good Morning Nigeria.
Morning.
All right, so let's begin the conversation from Yola, where Dr. Binder is, again another familiar face on Good Morning Nigeria. Dr. Binder, could you tell us what the situation is now? First, with regard to the casualty figure and what is happening to those persons who survived the incident.
Thank you very much, and good morning from Yola. Currently, things are calm, but official reports has that we have over 50 people who have died. Many of the injured are in hospitals. Some are have even been driven down to Yola here. Many are in the General Hospital in Mubi. His Excellency, the Deputy Governor, led a very powerful team with all the security leaders to visit the scene of the problem, and also the hospital. The government has provided a reasonable amount of palliatives in terms of drugs and even food for some of the affected people. This morning, His Excellency, the Executive Governor, Senator Muhammad Umar Jibrilla, has actually flown to Mubi this morning to actually go and see the situation himself. So, to a certain extent, it's calm, but people, the whole of the state, are saddened with this event. We thought we have crossed the bar of this type of primitive behaviors. The security, we had a very powerful Security Council yesterday with all the traditional leaders and the community leaders and the whole Security Council, the security outfits. And some of the things that actually came out of there were that because of the modernization and transformation of Mubi, with people moving and entrepreneurial activities picking up, people became a little bit off track in terms of the traditional security checks in front of churches and mosques before people come in, and the communities are a bit weak in terms of observing visitors and strangers, and we believe that these are the cracks that these dastardly people took advantage of, and therefore the Security Council has directed on a number of steps to be taken in this regard.
I was just wondering, Dr. Bindra, still with you, can you give us a sense of the geography of Mubi? How far away, for instance, is it from Yola? Is Mubi, for the benefit of our viewers, is Mubi, is it on the border or the boundary area between Adamawa and Borno, or is it anywhere close to the Cameroon location? And therefore, the level of infiltration by Boko Haram elements, which of course carries this kind of signature of suicide attacks.
Is the second largest city in Adamawa State and possibly the most commercialized town probably in the northeast. It is located, Mubi has two local government areas. There's Mubi North and Mubi South, but it's the same area. And it's located in the Northern Senatorial District. From Borno State directly borders with Madagali first, and then Michika local government, and then Mubi. And on the other side, Mubi has a border with Cameroon, and to a certain extent towards the tip of the north with through Cameroon with Chad. So it has always been a commercial town. With a lot of cross-border entrepreneurial activity and commerce. It has one of the largest, if not the largest, cattle market in West Africa. It has a very high and dense population. It is very mountainous and it is cooler than Yola. It's around maybe 300 to 400 kilometers away from Yola, but the road infrastructure from Yola to Mubi is not very good, and therefore the commuting between Yola and Mubi it has some few challenges. Although the federal government has awarded the contract for that road, and we hope in the next year or two it will be smoother. So Mubi actually is a strategic town because of the modernization and the changes, the roads infrastructure, the electricity, and all the vibrant activities. Most of the Madagali and Michika and Maiha, and to a certain extent from even Yola, the activities have attracted people to go to Mubi for survival, literally, to do the traditional things of buying and selling. And we believe that it is these movements, and a lot of Goza people and the Bama people from Borno State has also, based on the Boko Haram intensity, moved to Mubi. So Mubi actually has an intensive potential for all these things because of the population, of the mixture of Borno and Adamawa people, and certainly some elements or some people from Cameroon. So it is a strategic town. It has its own challenges, but this certainly is a signal that we have to be more proactive.
Thank you very much, Dr. Bindra, but I'd like to come to Kabiru Adamu now. I'd like to take it up for when Dr. Bindra said that he thought that they had passed this kind of attacks, and that's the question on the minds of a lot of people. After a substantial dissemination of Boko Haram, why are we still having this?
Yes, Boko Haram has been disseminated, certainly, but they have not been defeated. Unfortunately, the incident in Mubi is an indication of that they haven't been defeated. One thing is clear, the method with which they are delivering their bombs, quote and unquote, as well as the target that they are attacking. They've been quite consistent in terms of this method. They use most times human improvised explosive devices to deliver these weapons, and they are looking for targets. From the description that Dr. Binder has given us, soft targets such as mosques are part of their targets that they indicate. In this instance, he admitted to the fact that complacency had crept in. There was a time when before you enter a mosque, people would check you. Unfortunately, over time, when there was no attack, people left that behind. And these are the vulnerabilities that groups like Jamaat al-Ahlussunnah al-Dawati wal-Jihad exploit to deliver such kind of incidents. Over time, we've seen them moving. That is the resilience that terrorist group have proven. We see them moving from location to location. You will recall in 2014, they had taken over Mubi itself before the government forces chased them out. And then since then, we've not seen any attack in Mubi. And then the attack happened just a few days back. Of course, Madagali close by and Michika had been attacked severally this year, even as early as this year. So we know that they were capable of attacking those locations. And then recently, especially the military have been carrying out offensive attacks against their locations. So they were dislodged and they've been moving around. So those are the likely possibilities that led to this recent attack in Mubi.
I'm just wondering, Kabir Adamu, why there appears to be no higher casualty figure from the suicide bomb attack, any single suicide bomb incident, than what we have from Mubi at this time. And considering the location of Mubi, together with the fact that we have also seen, if you like, an escalation in the incidents of suicide bombing, what does this tell us? Is this a new phase again that we are getting into? Because as the security forces are strafing and flushing out Boko Haram elements from the epicenter, namely Borno, what does that mean for the outlying states, particularly in the northeast?
I think in one simple statement, it means we should up our game. We should accept the fact that these attacks are possible and they are looking for soft targets. For them, the higher the number, the softer the targets, the more the message is being sent. And attacking a religious place of worship sends that message direct, because remember, it's an ideological warfare. They believe their own version of the religion is better than all other versions. So attack it and send that message. What we have seen in recent times, it's not an indication that Boko Haram is reawakening. Rather, it's an indication of its weakness. It's attacking soft targets. Of course, in the last few months, we've seen attacks, I think, in Yobe on a military formation. But if you go back to 2014, when they were taking over territory, attacking military formation, almost at will, that has reduced. So I'm not, going to say that, they are reawakening. They are not reawakening. Unfortunately, what we're seeing is complacency. And I would mention this. We've said it time and time again. Military warfare enough cannot tackle terrorism. We need to embrace the other components of counter-terrorism. And I'm happy that the government, especially the Office of the National Security Advisor, is coming out with what is called the prevention and PCVE, Prevention and Countering Violent Extremism Mechanism. It would have various measures, including the de-radicalization and the counter-radicalization element, as well as the economic regeneration of the affected.
I just wonder, just before we bring in Dr. Bindro again, because some persons have also raised this point. You say this is not a resurgence of Boko Haram, but the science and crude technology of putting together IEDs isn't necessarily a simple one. There has to be a place, there has to be a directing mind, or you have directing minds. But of course, we keep hearing reports of their locations, that's to say Boko Haram locations, being dislodged. What does this tell us? Is there a sense in which Boko Haram may be embedded in otherwise overlooked locations?
Most likely. The fact that they are able to carry out this type of attacks is an indication that they are embedded within those communities. It's a yes and no answer. If we go back to Maiduguri, most of the recent attacks, they bring in these people and then send them out. And then, the fact that these people don't know the geography of Maiduguri very well has made it a bit difficult for them to penetrate and attack their preferred targets. Now, in the case of the Mubi attack, it was a mosque, so it's a bit, and it happened during the early morning prayers. Now, what it could mean is that the young boy just went, saw a mosque with people praying, and entered. But before every attack, there must be preparation, there must be surveillance, and that is where you can stop the attack. And I'm happy that the Honorable Commissioner has mentioned this fact, that he accepts the fact that there was complacency, and a meeting was held yesterday where hopefully they would talk to the people. What there is anti-terrorism. Government is carrying out counter-terrorism. People, you and I, residents of Adamawa, residents of Yobe and Maiduguri, they need to be armed on the rudiments of anti-terrorism to harden the environments where they are staying, so that it will be difficult for these terrorists to penetrate those environments.
All right, let's go over to Dr. Brindori Ingyola. Adamu Kabiru just said that complacency, of course, is part of the issue. But then what is the Adamawa state government doing to ensure that some of these underlying causes are actually dealt with? Earlier on, you said that people who are affected, some of them are being, a lot of them, or all of them are being given some form of relief. But let's look at the underlying causes. What is the state government doing?
Actually, socially, if you look at these type of systems, first of all, you have to understand that these areas, these local governments, these communities are intensely poor. The poverty incidence in these areas is very, very high. And anywhere you have poverty, when poverty is very high, it will be associated with these type of things. Insecurity will be rampant, disrespect of law and order will be rampant, population will be very intensive, and more so, Mubi, as the only commercial area located in this vast area affected by this insurgency, has literally become a magnet for people to move in for survival, and then at the end of the day, you start having all these miscreants creeping in. Therefore, both in our state we are doing our best, but you can tell we have many other challenges. I mean, you also know that recently we had a Numan massacre issue, which is right now at this that happened on the same day. So the federal government, with its additional incentives for poverty eradication, has to intensely be deployed to this area. People, all creativities in terms of reducing poverty has to move in. Secondly, the state government is trying to invite the security agents, who are doing literally tremendously very, very well. They are doing cordoning and searching and checking. Every time the security agents corners an area and searches, they will discover many people who are not very well known, who are strangers, and therefore the communities do not have this capacity and confidence to report. I mean, it's not a community for reporting. It is like communities for welcoming people, and you pray together, you eat together. Strangers in our religion, they said, give respect to your neighbor and honor your neighbor and respect your visitor. You know, this is part of the system, and therefore, again, the federal government, in my opinion, should deploy strategically the NIMSI, the identity card people, to move into these areas and ensure that everybody who is resident must have the identity card, so that when security agents are checking, they can be able to say, where is your identity card? And then people can be educated to carry this card wherever they go. And that way, you can discover who is moving in. If you're from Borno State, you should have your card. If you're from Cameroon, you will not have your card, and therefore there will be questions here and there. And certainly, the state government is intensifying its own town hall meetings to educate people. We have now deployed from yesterday hundreds of these scanners that can be used at the door of churches and mosques. We've called for a meeting for all the ulamas and the malams to re-educate them again that you cannot lay your guards down because you think peace is returning to Mubi area and the rest of Adamawa State. So all these things Adamawa State government is going. In addition, you see, we have produced a booklet, and in this booklet, all the elected political leaders are documented with their names and their telephone numbers. All the 3 senators in Adamawa State, all the 8 House of Reps in Adamawa State, all the 25 House of Assemblymen, all the 21 local government chairmen and their vice chairmen, all the 226 ward councillors elected, their names are in this book, their telephone numbers are in this book, and literally this directory is disseminated to the public very, very freely so that you can be able to call an elected person who is looking after your constituency and complain or praise him or whatever. So all these things are efforts that we're doing in the midst of so much difficulty and lacking of resources. We need help, and we believe that what we're getting, like Oliver Twist, we need more.
All right, Dr. Bindri, very quickly, beyond Mubi, what does the incident do to the efforts to return and then reintegrate persons who had earlier been displaced by Boko Haram?
Well, the Adamawa State government has been very proactive in this area. First of all, we used to have many IDP centers, and we realized that economically this is a problem, because every time you have an IDP center, you are seen as an insecure and insurgency affected areas. Therefore, we started a resettling program whereby communities and villages are absorbing this, even if you are not from Adamawa State. So many of the communities in Fufore, in Daware, in Uroboki, and so on and so forth, the nearby communities, they're absorbing all this to the extent that we have successfully closed down one of the largest IDP centers, which used to be the NYC camp, and now we have reactivated the camping and NYC operations in Adamawa State. So, and in this, we are not doing the traditional take a group, create a new area, and everybody's IDP. We realize that that also has some kind of IDP syndrome. We're distributing this with, they are given land, they're assisted to build their houses, and they're also given land for their farming. So they literally live like a community. In addition to this, we have so many incentives of entrepreneurial activities for the IDPs, but in Adamawa State, the IDP is not just because of insurgents. We have challenges of flooding, we have challenges of communal clashes, we have challenges of the farmers and herders. All these are mixed up, and we're tackling it in the entrepreneurial way. The other thing that the Adamawa State government is doing to ensure that this is sustainable is that we are constantly engaging the traditional rulers so that we go down right to the bottom, the Mayangwas. In our state, we have 8 first-class rulers. All of them are members of the Adamawa State Security Council. We have 104 district heads. We know all of them and their telephone numbers, and they give reports literally every week. We have 718 Majimilas who are the village heads. All these people are brought into the system to make sure that they report weekly. And then we have nearly 8,000 Mayangwas. And these people, the Adamawa State government, made an incentive. All the 7,810 Mayangwas are given, from December, will be given 5,000 naira stipend per month. And then the village heads will be given 10,000, the district heads will be given 15,000. And then we will be training and retraining people so that at least in security, they'll be reporting daily, weekly, and monthly, so that before you have calamities, big calamities like this, there are some signals. So a lot of creative innovations are actually being taken by the state. However, like I said before, it is a small state with very weak resources. We are not particularly too entrepreneurial. We're a civil service state. We're very agrarian, and our agriculture is small-scale agriculture. We need help, and we need help very, very quickly.
All right, thank you very, very much for joining us on the program this morning. And Secretary to the Adamawa State Government, Dr. Umar Bindr, thank you very, very much. But then I'd like you to take a listen to some of the tweets that we have coming in from our viewers via our Twitter handle at NTAGMN. The very first one is from Temple Oriake. He says, being security conscious should be a way of life for the residents. Solely relying on military will not end this insurgency.
Sean Adebo tweets, in the Mubi bombing, the use of technology like drones will greatly help. The use of ground armies is limited.
Abdul Musa tweets, no nation has ever tackled insurgency completely. The citizens must rise up to the challenge and assist security agencies by reporting suspicious persons and movements to them. Citizens must exercise extra vigilance.
Now, Shema Degbo again says to complement the efforts of the army, the Northeast, you use CCTV and residents database ID cards.
Omogbola Babs tweets, there is another statement. These vampires have made other narratives that, and that's to buttress the fact that they are heartless and careless about what faith you profess.
Victor Ohioswama says the Mobi blast is devastating. My condolences to the dead. Obviously, the security agencies are overwhelmed. Well, those are some of the tweets that we have. We would like to thank our two guests who have been with us. Kabir Adamu, a security expert and regular analyst for us on security matters on Good Morning Nigeria. Thank you for participating in our discussion this morning.
A pleasure to be here.
All right. We also would like to thank the secretary to the Adamawa State government. That is Dr. Omar Bindri. You joined us via Skype from the capital of Adamawa, which is Yola. Always a delight having you on Good Morning Nigeria, even though we'll discuss a pretty sad subject this morning.
Thank you very much. Skype, courtesy of Nicomsat.
You're going to pay for that.
All right. Let's take a short break now. When we return, we'll be dealing again with another issue, this time involving the primary healthcare system, which is after the break.
Chief. Good morning, sir. You are here already?
No. Now my spirit day, my body day for house. What kind of question is that? Were you not the one that fixed this meeting for 8 a.m.? You are now coming by 10 a.m. and start asking me jab questions.
But Chief, now, I'm sorry. Don't you also go late for meetings sometimes? You know now, African time.
No more African time. And no more pancaking of face during office hours. At the end of the day, we will lose valuable time. We will not make progress. If we want to move this nation forward, we must treat business as business and respect time. Change begins with me.
Thank you, sir. I am sorry. Can we go for the meeting now, Chief?
Later.
This message is brought to you by the National Orientation Agency in conjunction with the Federal Ministry of Information and Culture.
If you hear a bomb explosion or gunshots of an active shooter, that might be a terror attack. At such times, always remember 3 action words: run, hide, report. Don't try to run towards the terror scene to save the situation, because there might be a second bomb blast or another attack. Run far away and take cover. Make sure you are safe first. Yes, it is in our nature to sympathize over the hurt, but remember, only trained personnel can help in such situations. When in a secured environment, promptly call relevant authorities and help will come. For anonymous reporting, call 09630-3250-5 or 0813-2222-106. If you see something, say something. Nigeria unite against terrorism. This message is brought to you by the Federal Ministry of Information and Culture.
Welcome to the new world of superb taste. Now here in Nigeria. Everyone, try it and enjoy the delicious goodness. We are bringing our new noodles to every corner of the country. That's right. It tastes great. It tastes fantastic. It's time for a new noodle. Nigeria, you want the truly delicious taste? Come and get it! Be supreme, Nigeria.
All right, you're welcome back. But if you just joined us, it's Good Morning Nigeria, and we are reaching you live on the network service of the Nigerian Television Authority. We've concluded our first topic. We are moving on to the second issue. And of course, the primary health care is crucial, particularly in Nigeria, because of the need for first and early response, the proximity to a large number of people, most of whom are poor and vulnerable, as well as, of course, the fact that they reside in remote locations. Now, to what extent is the primary health care system available to Nigerians, and what are the efforts to change the current situation, which analysts agree is unsalutary? Let's get this background report from our correspondent, Ngozi Chude, as a prompt for our conversation this morning.
Shortly after Nigeria's independence, the country's health focus was mostly on curative rather than preventive medicine. However, in 1985, things started changing under the leadership of Professor Olikoye Ransom Kuti as the then Health. With a comprehensive national policy launched in 1988, the mandate of the Primary Health Care Initiative became visible at the grassroots. This brought to the fore the basic essentials such as ensuring immunization for children, adequate breastfeeding practices, oral rehydration therapy by nursing mothers, among others. By 1992, the National Primary Health Care Development Agency was set up to become a support system and the focal agency to implement the initiative. Although health is on the concurrent list, the implementation of primary health care has primarily been seen as the responsibility of the third tier of government. Unfortunately, through the years, fortunes of primary health care nosedived as health care centers at the local government areas across the country became poorly managed and virtually decayed. At present, there are about 30,000 primary health care establishments across the country, with only 20% open for operations, which again paints the sad tale of primary health care in the country. Experts believe this could easily be traced to lack of medical personnel, poor working conditions, obsolete equipment, poor funding, lack of political will, as well as policy inconsistency. Nonetheless, in 2011, a new policy sought to resuscitate primary health care in the country as the initiative called Primary Health Care Under One Roof was implemented. However, recognizing the need for adequate medical attention for Nigerians at the grassroots, especially for women and children under the age of 5, Nigeria's Minister of Health, Professor Isaac Adewale, announced the commitment of the federal government to change the story for good and prioritize healthcare delivery in the country with the allocation of more resources. Disclosing this during an inspection at Kuchingoro Primary Health Care Center in Abuja, the minister said funds are being provided to uplift 110 primary health care facilities across the country. In addition, he said the revitalization of the primary health care centers in all the senatorial districts is expected to be replicated in 10,000 electoral wards in Nigeria. The aim is to ensure that a good number of Nigerians, particularly at the grassroots, have access to quality basic health care services. With a renewed vigor in the revitalization of the centers, it is pertinent to ask how far these attempts to revive the sector have gone. What role is each stakeholder playing to change the sad narrative of primary health care in the country? Is there a role for the private sector? To what extent is funding shaping the new thinking for primary health care in the country? What is the place of Alma Ata Declaration and the 2001 Abuja Declaration, which requests African governments to reserve 15% or more for improvement of health care? All these and more as guests join us for more insight on Good Morning Nigeria today.
Thank you very much, Ngozi Chude, for that background report. And joining us for this discussion on the state of primary health care, we have a number of guests across the country. But let's begin with our guest here in Abuja. We have the Executive Director of... we have Executive Director and Chief Executive of the National Primary Healthcare Development Agency. He's Dr. Faisal Shuaib. Welcome to the program.
Good morning.
And we're also being joined live here in our studios by Honorable Agia Stephen Ibrahim. He is the Algon Chairman, Taraba State, and Assistant National Secretary of Algon. Good morning and welcome to Good Morning Nigeria.
A pleasure.
All right, we have other guests from network centers in Jos, in Ibadan, as well as Sokoto, but we'll take the guest now from Ibadan, and that's the Honorable Commissioner of Health for Oyo State. Is Dr. Abdulaziz Adedotun. Dr. Adedotun, a pleasure to have you join us on the program this morning.
Thank you so much for having me. Good morning to the viewers.
And from Sokoto, where we are being joined by Adamu Romo, his Executive Secretary, Sokoto State Primary Healthcare Development Agency.
Good morning, Nigerians.
Okay, we'll be joined subsequently by the Commissioner of Health in Plateau State. That will be from our Jos Network studios. But let's begin this conversation here in Abuja, and we're going straight to the CEO of the National Primary Healthcare Development Agency. We did have in our studios here the Honorable Minister of Health, who indicated that there was the rollout plan to revitalize some 10,000 primary healthcare centers, a clear indication of the collapse of the primary healthcare system in the country. Where are we now with regard to the revitalization of the primary healthcare centers, and what obstacles, if any, have been encountered in this attempt?
Thank you. So we've made tremendous progress since Mr. President, made a clear demonstration of his intention to provide equitable primary healthcare services to Nigerians. There was a clear declaration that 10,000 primary healthcare centers, one per ward, will be renovated. But apart from renovating these primary healthcare centers, it's also about providing human resources, equipment, and medicines. As part of the first phase of this process, 110 health facilities were identified, one per senatorial district. So 110, and then one Fuka LG of Niger State. The plan was to finish up the renovation within 1 year. So far, we've been able to renovate 95 out of 110 health facilities. But this is also just what the federal government has done in a bid to rapidly improve the primary healthcare centers. But we also have primary healthcare centers that have been renovated and equipped by our development partners, such as the EU, DFID, UNICEF, MNCH2. We also have individuals and corporate bodies that are also joining hands to ensure that the goal of having one functional primary healthcare center per ward is not just a vision for the federal government of Nigeria, but the collective vision of all Nigerians. So everybody is pitching in to see how we can get to those numbers.
All right, Dr. Shuaib, thank you very much. In your response, you didn't mention the states, you didn't mention the local government. So let's get the perspectives of the states. And we're going to our Ibadan Network Center, where we just introduced the Commissioner for Health, Dr. Adedotun. Dr. Adedotun, what is the state of primary health care in your state? What is also the state of the revival, if any, of primary health care centers under your jurisdiction?
Well, I need to say very clearly that in Oyo State, PAC has not collapsed. I mean, when I listened to the person that first reported about the issue of PAC throughout Nigeria, in Oyo State, it has not collapsed. We are not waiting for the federal government to help us in Oyo State. About 3 months ago, His Excellency the Governor of Oyo State launched a 50 billion naira endowment fund to make sure that private partners, NGOs, and foundations throughout the world help Oyo State, because we can't just wait on a handout from the federal government alone. And I can tell you that in Oyo State, notwithstanding the global problem that we have in Nigeria in terms of funding our PAC, they have not collapsed. They are not at their best, but I can bet you that before the terminal days of this government, they will get into international best standards. That will be my response to what the Secretary of the Primary Care Development Agency said, that all about 100 care centers are going to be renovated. We are still waiting for the federal government to do what they said they're going to do for the 3 primary care centers they want to renovate in Oyo State. But in terms of development, we are not waiting for the federal government. The government in Oyo State, we are on a move to make sure that we rapidly renovate all these hospitals, to make sure that we have centers of excellence, not just mere consulting clinics.
You say that, Dr. Adedotun, you say that your primary healthcare system is up and running. What kind of services are available? And what are the stats with regard to improvements in healthcare delivery in your state?
The most important thing that I would like the audience to know is that primary care center have different forms. We have primary care center, we have PAC, that's a primary health clinic, and of course, health post. In Oyo State, for example, all the expectations that you would like to have in the primary care center we start talking about immunization for children. We talking about contraceptive pills for mothers to reduce maternal mortality. We're talking about nutrition, again, as I said earlier on, and above all, health education. We are doing all that in all our primary care centers. What we need at this moment in time is funding, equipment, and personnel. And that's one of the reasons why I told you that this government is not waiting for the federal government, because the federal government cannot do it alone. The federal government needs to be supported. But as I said earlier on, I've outlined what we are doing in our centers. We are providing immunization, both routine and supplemental. We are educating women in terms of how to space their pregnancy. We have contraceptive, our CPR rate, that is contraception prevention rate in Oyo State, is close to 45%, which is one of the best in Nigeria in order to reduce maternal mortality. And above all, in terms of nutrition for children, we are at our best at this point in time. And that is evidence if you go into all the indices of explaining whether an institution is doing very well. Maternal mortality is one of the indices to check whether a nation is doing very well. The average in Nigeria is about 576 per 100,000. You'll say we're about 263 per 100,000. So also is our infant mortality rate. But as I said earlier, we are not at our best, but we want to get to our best before the terminal date of this government. That is why we launched an endowment fund which brought a large sum of money in about 3 months ago to bring our healthcare centers to international best standards.
All right, thank you very much, Dr. Abdulaziz Adedotun, Commissioner for Health, Oyo State. Let's go over now to our Sokoto Network Center. Let's get to Adamu Romo. I'd like you to also speak to that same issue. What is the state of primary health care in your state, and what services are available?
Thank you very much. Honestly, the state of primary health care development in Sokoto State is honestly doing well. And looking into the first, of course, we must say that a lot has been achieved. And of course, many people, I think, and I believe, can testify that. Honestly, one thing I would say, the establishment of the primary health care development under one roof is a national policy. Which of course the Sokoto State has keyed into already, and all the health facilities across the 20th local government of the state has been transferred to the agency toward improving the health services being rendered by these health facilities. And of course, even not just the staff, the health facilities, but even their salaries have been transferred to the agency toward just a support of what the state government is doing toward improving the health services of the vast people of Sokoto State in this regard.
Thank you very much, Malam Adamu Romo. We'll come back to you. Earlier, we did indicate that we're going to be joined also by the Commissioner for Health in Plateau from our Just Network studios. You can see him right there on the screen. And of course, he is Dr. Kudin Kamask Dayen. That's from our Just Network studios, the Commissioner for Health. It's our pleasure to have you join us on the program. And straight away, tell us what the status of primary health care delivery is in your jurisdiction.
Well, thank you, and then good morning, viewers. For us on the plateau, when this government came in virtually about 2 years ago, one of the policy thrusts of this government to ensure that we have a qualitative and an accessible healthcare delivery system to the good people of Plateau State. And we can only do that when we revitalized our primary healthcare centers where we have a lot of our people live. And in doing that, one of the things that the Executive Governor, Right Honorable Simon Bakola Long, did was to ensure that the Primary Healthcare Development Board was repositioned. And he did that by appointing a substantive executive secretary for the board. And as it is now, most of the staff from the ministry who are supposed to function within that board, they've been deployed to that board. We have we deploy other staff from other MDAs that will assist in building this board. And talking about primary healthcare facilities, just like my counterpart in Oyo State did say, we are not waiting for the federal government to come and revitalize our primary healthcare centers for us. I know presently some renovation and revitalization of primary healthcare centers are going on in the various local government areas. Like, for example, in Shandam local government area, for example, where the governor comes from, the transition chairman that came in about a few months ago has finished a revitalization and then equipping of a primary healthcare center in Doka, which is a community in Shandam local government area. So for us, we encourage most of our transition chairmen to go on to revitalize these primary healthcare centers and not waiting on the federal government. However, 3 areas or 3 local government areas have been identified in the various senatorial districts, and we've identified a primary healthcare facilities in each of these senatorial districts. One is in the northern zone, we have this in Jos East. In the central zone, we have it in Mangu local government area. And then in the southern zone, we have it in Nikang. That is the ones that the federal government are going to revitalize for us.
All right. Thank you very much, Dr. Day. That's from Jos. We'll come back to you and indeed the other guests because you've talked about how up and running your state governments are with regard to primary health care. We'll begin to crunch the numbers to see how this is playing out. Earlier, we introduced the Assistant National Publicity Secretary of ALGON, that is the Association of Local Governments of Nigeria. He's also the chair of that association's chapter in Taraba State. That is Stephen Agia. Honorable Stephen Agia, you've listened to the federal government. That's the CEO of the National Primary Healthcare. You also listen to Sokoto. You listen to Plateau and to Oyo. They've indicated what the state government is doing or what the federal government is doing. There appears to be no mention of perhaps the role of the local government in all of this. Local governments, you are bystanders.
Well, I want to thank you for having me here. I want you to understand that you can't talk about primary health care without referring to local governments, particularly the local government chairman. This is because the local government chairmen are privileged to be the leaders that are closer to the people. And then if you must have effective primary health care, then you must use the local government chairman. I heard the commissioner from Plateau talked about the transition chairman who renovated some primary health care primary care establishments like that in their state. This is what every chairman of local government is expected to do.
What are they doing now?
For instance, in my state, the governor encourages the chairman to renovate primary health care centers. Every month, money is dished out to local government chairmen to ensure that these things are renovated. You provide enabling environment for them to operate. For instance, particularly the caregivers. The governor of my state, that is Architect Darius Ishaku, has been able to release funds that about 625 communities were touched, what are called hard-to-reach communities. This is achievable by bringing in the local government chairman. And the local government chairman, as I speak to you today, have been encouraged by ALGON from the national level to ensure that when opportunity is given for projects to be carried out, particularly health care centers are renovated.
What kind of renovation has taken place?
For instance,
just give a description. Cite one example.
Yes, let me use myself as an example. I am privileged to be the executive chairman of Kumi local government. Last month, I renovated a clinic in Ndafro. Ndafro is a ward in my local government, and that I renovated it, furnished it, and provide drugs for the area. This is because Ndafro, as it were, is a community. The clinic there covers about 10 communities. Before today, if a woman is pregnant, she will have to be carried from the village where she is to the local government headquarters. And before that, before you know it, maybe she's dead or something. But with the renovation and furnishing and then provision of drugs to this primary health care center, Today, the case is different.
All right, thank you very much, Honorable Agia Stephen Ibrahim. Let's get back to Dr. Faiza. The stories from Oyo, Sokoto, Plateau, they are looking all nice and good. And they've said one thing, they don't need, they need the federal government, but then they wouldn't wait for the federal government. Do you agree with them?
Yes, absolutely. That is the approach, right? I think one thing that needs to be very clear is that the delivery of primary healthcare services in Nigeria is suboptimal. We have to be upfront about the fact that we're not doing as well as we should be doing, right? We have one of the highest maternal and child mortality rates in the country, globally. Our routine immunization coverage is one of the worst, globally. These are serious issues that need to be addressed. It is very true that all across the land, you have governors, you have National Assembly members who are joining hands with the federal government and the local government as well to try and improve the situation. But we're not there yet. When we talk about revitalizing primary healthcare centers, it's really not about just renovating, right? It's not just about providing a fancy healthcare facility. It's also looking around the human resources, making sure that the people are there, the health workers are there, they're well trained and they are committed. They have the right attitude to ensure that our people are treated in a humane and courteous way. It's about providing the right types of basic medication. It's about the equipment to make the right diagnosis. It's about having power, water supply in these health facilities. It's about having operational funds, right? So that if, for instance, the roof is leaking, you have funds that can be used to fix that. You go to a lot of primary healthcare centers and they are in a state, they're dilapidated, right? Or you see some primary healthcare centers where it's kind of hard for you to fathom how people work, right? When you travel from Abuja to your villages, you see so many healthcare centers that have been abandoned, either partially completed or because they become so dilapidated, nobody needs to go there. And that is why, with the drive to make sure that we have at least one functional primary healthcare center per ward, that is the minimum, right? That is what the federal government's aspiration is. But the states are also contributing. The states are doing the best that they can. They are also having collaborative agreements with development partners. You have the private sector, that are also contributing to all of this effort. However, I want to put it very clearly that, we're not where we need to be, especially when you put our human resources, our resources as a people next to the kind of indices that we have, in the types of health indices that we have. We can do a whole lot better. And I'm sure that with the kind of progress that we begin to see, that we will achieve those better indices, but we're definitely not where we need to be.
That's still with you, Dr. Ishwai. If some of the explanations you hear about primary healthcare centers or the primary healthcare system would tend to create the impression that the primary healthcare is mainly targeted at antenatal and postnatal issues, immunization, and where a place you go to and you find only babies under 5, who need to be immunized, and pregnant women and so on and so forth. Is that all primary health care is supposed to deliver?
Primary health care is essential care, the most basic care that you can provide where people live and work. So what you've just mentioned, some of these services that you have mentioned are preventive measures, right? So if you're able to provide preventive measures, promote the health of the people, then it is less likely that they will fall sick. Or even if they fall sick, if they have a primary healthcare center next to where they live, before complications arise, then they're able to have access that is of good enough quality to ensure that their health is restored. That is the vision of Mr. President, to ensure that no matter where you live in Nigeria, whether you are rich or you're poor, especially for the most vulnerable, that these primary healthcare centers are able to provide equitable and efficient health services.
But then, of course, we know that the primary health care is where you have basically the immunization. Could you give us an idea of the statistics of the immunization coverage in Nigeria right now as we speak?
So I'll tell you clearly that the reason why we cannot be complacent about the state of primary health care in Nigeria is because there's a correlation between immunization coverage and the status of primary health care in Nigeria. As of the last survey that was done in 2015 and early 2016, the less than 1/3 of Nigerians, of eligible children, have had full vaccination. Specifically, just about 23% of our children have been fully covered by the requisite vaccinations that they require. That is not good. That is not a reflection of the kind of commitment and dedication that people have towards ensuring that health care services reach our children.
Did you say 23%?
Absolutely, 23%. That's the number of children that have received a full complement of the vaccines that they're supposed to get. And there are a number of challenges, starting from the fact that primary health care, based on the 2014 Health Act, is really supposed to be the responsibility of the local government, right? But there have been a lot of challenges that has prevented the local government from delivering on quality primary health care services, ranging from the poor governance structures, inadequate funding, inadequate human resources, right? So if I talk about governance structure, for instance, this is where we talk about the fact that we have a multiplicity of structures and frameworks that try to manage primary health care. So for instance, the State Ministry of Health, you have the local government service commission, you have the local government and chieftaincy affairs department. All of this, trying to say, okay, we have a stake in trying to manage primary health care. This is why the National Primary Healthcare Development Agency, following the guideline provided by the World Health Organization, right, now elaborated the primary health care under one roof policy, so that all this fragmented management of primary health care now comes under one management, one plan, and one monitoring and evaluating mechanism that ensures that there's better leadership and accountability for primary health care services.
All right, Dr. Shuaibu, thank you very much. Let's return to Dr. Dane, that's the Commissioner for Health in Plateau State. Dr. Dane, I asked the CEO of the Primary Healthcare Development Agency the question as to the purpose of primary health care, whether it doesn't transcend the immunization for antenatal, postnatal, and infants 0 to 1 and pregnant women. I'm asking you this same question against the background, for instance, what is the conceptualization and indeed operationalization of primary health care in your jurisdiction? Now, take that along with reported incidents a few weeks ago between Plateau and Bauchi states. Some 250 persons died from snake bites. So they couldn't find a primary health care center for immediate attention or first response?
Well, let me quickly respond to that statistics. I think we at the Ministry of Health were the custodians of statistics as far as health issues on the plateau are concerned. We have about 2 treatment centers as far as snake bites are concerned on the plateau, and that is the Comprehensive Center ZAMCO, which is a branch of the Jos University Teaching Hospital, and then the General Hospital Shandam. I want to say that that statistics is not correct because from our own data, we've not been able to receive that number of casualty from snake bites. But having said that, I want to say that primary healthcare centers is not just restricted for immunization, family planning, nutrition, as the case may be. But when you get to a primary healthcare center, you should be able to, even as an adult, you should be able to have the basic minimum service. Like if you are presenting with malaria, you should be able to have drugs that are good to be able to treat your malaria. And it is in that light that Plateau State delegates to the National Council on Health sponsor a bill on the need to strengthen the referral system. And I am glad to tell you that that bill went through and it was approved, because we discovered that the referral system is weak. Because from the primary healthcare centers, the aim is that when you are not able to offer or you don't have the human resource capacity to deliver a particular service at that level, you refer to the next level. And we discovered that such a referral system is very weak, and therefore that made us to sponsor this memo to the National Council on Health. And I am happy that it was passed, and I believe that we're going to come up with policies that will strengthen the primary healthcare system, the referral system from primary healthcare to secondary and then to the tertiary centers. And to also quickly add again about the anti-snake venom. When we were told that so many people died because they couldn't access, it's not as if they could not access services at that primary healthcare center. We had issues because we were in contact with HTAP, and as you are aware, the executive director who is responsible is a son of the soil in the person of Dr. Durfa. That is where we get most of our anti-snake venom from. And so when this issue came up, I was in contact with him, and he said there were logistics problems in bringing the anti-snake venom, and he did promise that in some few days, we should be able to get it, and I'm sure we've gotten some now.
All right, thank you very much. Let's see, we're not sure if we are still on to our Sokoto Network Center. No, we understand that now we have, instead it's Ibadan there. You saw Dr. Abdulaziz Adedutom a moment ago. Dr. Adedutom, of course, you've listened to the comments of the other guests. One point just touched on now by your counterpart from Plateau has to do with the referral system. But there's also been the lingering challenge of qualified personnel who first are employed and then sent to remote locations and are retained in those remote locations. Plus the fact of sometimes the paltry, if not poor state of your infrastructure and equipment at the PHCs. What's your take on this from your perspective?
I just want to align myself with the presentation of the Commissioner of Health from Plateau State, as well as the presentation of the Executive Secretary of the Primary Care Development Agency, that the ideal setting is not for PAC to be responsible only for mothers and children alone. It should be a place where essential services should be obtained even before you go to secondary care centers. And that's one of the many reasons why I said we launch an endowment fund to make sure that PAC should be PAC. That is a center of where people can come and get essential service. Like the issue of state buy you are talking about. There's no reason why somebody should come to a PAC and not be able to obtain an antivenom vaccine. Same with malaria, same with pneumonia, same with TB. It's only when you have complications that secondary care centers should then be sought after. In your state, what we are trying to do, based on what you have said now, is to make sure that we motivate our workforce. I'm talking about doctors, nurses, CHUs, and other paramedics, to make sure that we give them adequate support in terms of funding and in terms of salary, to make sure they stay where they are. Because all this rural area we are talking about now, that is where majority of our population live, and they need care. And I can tell you that I'm also happy with your question that, I mean, the primary care center should just not be for, children under 5, it should be for global services. It's only when the complications arise that people should go to secondary care center. That is our own motivation in your state now in terms of what we are trying to do, to make sure that PAC is not just for bread and butter, they are for issues that can be taken care of quickly, especially emergencies. It's only when there are complications that then we want them to be referred. But in terms of what you are talking about as regards emoluments and others, and I don't want to repeat myself, we floated an endowment fund about 50 billion naira about 3 months ago. And the purpose is to make sure that we renovate all those care centers and give support, because government cannot do it alone at all levels, whether at a federal government level or at a state government level. And money is coming in your state now to make sure that we are able to keep those paramedics and doctors wherever they are. Because you cannot put anybody in the rural areas without giving them adequate salaries and emoluments. And I can, if you come to your state the next few months, you'll be rest assured that what I'm talking about, we're going to actualize it. We have a board of trustees that's now been floated now to make sure that all these things that I'm talking about come into fruition. We are not waiting for the federal government or even for the world to help us in your state. Nigerians are coming to help us in different forums to make sure we transform our PAC into centers of excellence not just a place where people just come and take anti-malaria alone. So I thank you for that question, because that's our motivation in Oyo State. But let me also add that I don't want to paint a rosy picture that all is normal in Oyo State. We need help. But the important problem that we are doing, what we are trying to say in Oyo State, in essence, that we cannot go cap in hand to the federal government every time. That's why we launched the endowment fund. I thank you for your question.
Thank you very, very much, Dr. Abdulaziz Odutan. I would like to get the views of the Executive Secretary, Sokoto State Primary Healthcare, and that's Adamu Abdullahi Romo. How is your state, also your own state, Sokoto, how is it dealing with the challenge of training and retaining some of these health personnel at the primary healthcare level?
Just like my other speakers have said, here in the state, honestly, after we took over all the staff, the health facilities, and having visited them to assess their situation, we embarked honestly seriously on the issue of training and retraining. What we did is that we embarked on a kind of screening. We named Operation Show Your Certificate. We collect the documents, we screen them, and make sure that we are taking the right person who has undergone the exact course that we require. And we also make an assessment on what capabilities he has of rendering the service that we require at a given center. Then we use that to identify where we need the most. And of course, we are seriously on that. And I believe by now, as I'm talking, we have concluded about 75% of the total health facilities we have across the state, and making sure that we send the required staff carrying the appropriate knowledge who are able to deliver the required services at that level. And after that one, we're also making a lot of efforts on the improvement of the situation of the health facilities generally across the state. And quite okay, in addition to that, the social advisor has inaugurated a committee that should go around to sensitize the traditional rulers under the strong leadership from the Sultanate to sensitize people to bring up their children so that we secure admission for them to go and pursue one course or the other. Because if you look at the manpower development on health sector generally, honestly, it's very low, just like my ED has said. And of course, that should be the basis of providing all these healthcare services at the primary level. And of course, the state has not been left alone on that. We have an agreement signed with the development partners in which we source those that are trainable, we train them, and those that need training on the job training, we also embark on that. In fact, we are able to look at our health facilities as not just centers where we render services, but also centers where we also train our people in doing one thing or the other, at least to make sure that the required services are very much available, accessible, and indeed very much within the powers of the vulnerable people, that is to say people at the primary level. And of course, health services at the primary level, I think, is the basis of whatever economic one can think of globally. Therefore, primary health care centers are honestly the baseline for whatever development one can think of. Therefore, the segment honestly is pushing a lot of money, but there has never been a time we put down our submission before His Excellency, and it takes longer time without getting it back to us, approved, and the money are released honestly as we want them, and we also engage back and to render those services that makes us to put down our submission. So Alhamdulillah, honestly, Sokoto said we are doing well, and I believe the bus populace, like I said earlier, are testimony to that.
Malam Adamu Romos, still with you. Well, the nature of primary health care, of course, has been discussed by the other guests who indicate quite clearly that it should expand beyond the current view that's just for children and all of that. But I want to bring you back to the nutritional aspect of primary health care, which is a critical adjunct of it all. Some months ago on this program, we discussed the nutritional map of Nigeria. And a respected professor from the University of Maiduguri did indicate, the nutritional attributes of the various geopolitical zones, stating that the Northwest, appeared to have scored perhaps lowest in the country. And Sokoto is in the Northwest. What have you done with regard to ramping up the nutritional quality of children or other young persons in your area using the primary healthcare system?
you understand, that one honestly was recorded simply because we ignore our home produce. The home product we have honestly are very good and full of nutrition. They are highly nutritious, but we ignore them, and we thought it's we have to go for high profile food that are more nutritious. And we are trying the very best we can in highlighting, sensitizing our people to use their homegrown items, homegrown foods, which are of course more nutritious even than the one people are thinking of. So honestly, in collaboration with the Sultan Council, we inaugurated a committee and we charged them with responsibility. And as I'm talking to you now, they are seriously on the mass mobilization, enlighten our vast populace on the need and the importance and the nutritional status of our homegrown foods, which I believe will definitely make an impact. And of course, you know, we have this Nutrition Week, which was established by Sokoto State, and quite okay, we do meet twice in a quarter to sensitize people, assess what was done on the ground as per nutrition, and at the same time come up with the new methodology of empowering our people, educating them, telling them how best they can utilize the homegrown food they have toward improving their nutritional status.
All right, thank you very much, Adamu Abdullahi Romo, Executive Secretary, Sokoto State Primary Healthcare Development Agency. It's on that note, we want to thank you for joining us on Good Morning Nigeria today. Thank you for your thoughts and your perspective.
Thank you very much.
All right, we'll now go to our Jos Network Center.
Sure.
All right, while we're still trying to get over to our Jos Network Center, let's get to talk to Agia Stephen Ibrahim. Local government level is really important. What are you doing? What systems have you put in place to check that, you know, personnel are compliant to the procedures of a PHC and at a local level? And are you doing this on your own, or are you compliant to what the state government is saying that you should do?
Well, in our various local governments, what we do to ensure that people stay at the places of their duties is by ensuring that we discipline those who are defaulted. For instance, at the local government level, we realize that most local governments have turned to ghost towns. People don't go to work. People don't care about what is happening. People just stay in their various homes and take salaries. But you see, particularly when it comes to issues of primary health care, it's an issue that has to do with the lives of the people that you cannot overemphasize. The staff that are trained to do this work must just do their work.
Are they properly supervised?
They are supervised by the local government. That is why we have
properly supervised.
Well, in our various local government, they are properly supervised. That's why we have councillors, and they are representatives from the various wards. So councillors, for instance, report to us about what is happening in the various clinics, and then we report directly back to the primary healthcare development agencies in the state, which has the right to discipline those who are defaulters. So they are supervised.
All right. Thank you, Stephen Agia. Let's bring in again Dr. Faisal Shuaib. The two commissioners of health talked about the need to ramp up the referral system from primary healthcare to secondary healthcare. Where are we now with regard to the challenge that is probably hampering this, so that you have effective linkages from PHC to secondary, and if you, of course from there to tertiary?
Right. The federal government is really strengthening the provision of referral systems by working with the states. We're working with state government in our advocacy to the governors. You know, we're beginning to see how state governors are providing funding for the provision of, say, ambulances. But apart from the ambulances that take patients from the primary healthcare centers to secondary healthcare centers, also in training the health workers so that they're able to recognize, dangerous symptoms and signs that indicate that there is a need for this referral to take place. But I think with the appropriation of the Basic Healthcare Provision Fund, once the National Assembly and the Executive are able to make that fund available, then the 5% of that Basic Healthcare Provision Fund will also go towards strengthening the referral system.
All right, Dr. Shuaib, thank you very much. Just to indicate that we have some tweets now, which we'll take very quickly before we appreciate our guests for participating in the conversation. Sunday Michael Amakoje, if Aso Villa Clinic can lack some things that one ordinarily should find in the clinic, we can imagine the state of our primary health care in a remote village.
And Mogbola Onbab tweets, the absence of primary health care has contributed adversely to the high cases of infant and maternal mortality. Government at all levels must take drastic steps to address this menace.
Abdul Musa tweets, now the Primary Healthcare Development Agency over the years has done very well. The agency needs a lot in terms of funding, manpower and support from development partners.
And Clifford Aguguesi tweets, let us clearly look at the structure of the PHC system, and it will not be far-fetched while the poor activity within the system is the way it is.
Festus Akimboyewa, thousands of lives of Nigerians could be saved annually if they have access to adequate and well-funded primary health care centers, especially in the rural areas. Government should make provision of primary health care a priority.
And Clifford tweets again, he says, let's look at the supposed personnel for an efficient primary health care system. We have a public health superintendents, community health workers aid, and assistant prime pharmacy technicians, technologists. How many of these have been trained and gainfully employed?
All right, Sheon Adegbo tweets, please ask your guests when last did they visit a primary health care center, because most times monitoring and supervision of the PHCs is lacking. What the government says sometimes is different from what is on the ground. Okay, I'm sure if we're going to ask them the opportunity to respond, give them the opportunity to respond to all of this, we're going to open up the conversation again, but we are now pressed for time. So we'd like to give our thanks to our guests from Ibadan. We were joined by the State Commissioner for Health, Dr. Abdulaziz Adeduton. Thank you very much for your contribution to our discussion this morning.
Thank you for having me.
Appreciation also to the Commissioner for Health, Plateau State. He joined us from our Just Network studios, Dr. Dane. Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much.
And here with us in the Abuja studios from Taraba is Chairman of the local chapter of Argon in Taraba, Honorable Stephen Agia. Thank you very much for your insights. And we do hope that if farmers are in distress, maybe they have a machete cut, they can go to a primary health care center that you have renovated and get treated before the referral, if need be, to a secondary center. Thanks a lot, Honorable Agia.
My pleasure.
And also the CEO of the National Primary Healthcare Development Agency, Dr. Faisal Shuaib. Thank you very much for being with us on the program today and for your insights.
Thank you very much. It's always a pleasure.
All right, Sports 6 next on Good Morning Nigeria.
Was a fairy tale turned to reality when the entertainment industry in Lagos came to a standstill for Adesuwa Itomi and Bankole Wellington's traditional wedding. Close your eyes, open them, and all you see is a star-studded event with beautifully dressed celebrants and guests. The exquisite picture poses and grand display of love by the two lovebirds would certainly make Angelina Jolie and Brad Pitt green with envy. Adesuwa rocked 4 different outfits on her day with an amazing set of ashwebi to die for. No wonder the couple got lots of love on Instagram, with Bisola from Big Brother Naija 2017 saying, "Beautiful formation," and Omotolai Kehinde advising the couple to stay off social media.
And that's it, the much we can take on entertainment. Let's join the Nigerian Meteorological Agency for the weather outlook for the rest of the day.
It's a pleasure to have you join us on the weather segment. Let me take you through what Thursday's forecast holds for us as we'll anticipate partly cloudy to cloudy conditions over the south up to the central cities, leaving the entire north in moderate dust haze throughout the forecast period. As we move into the day, we'll expect better chances of weather activities to affect places around Ikom, Obudu, Ogoja, Akure, Benin, and the entire coastal states. From the Nigerian Meteorological Agency, I am Hisa Helen Boye.
All right, that does it for us today on Good Morning Nigeria. We appreciate your tuning in. We're back tomorrow same time at 7 o'clock in the morning. Enjoy the rest of your day. I'm Kingsley Osadolo.
I'm Rhoda Anonam. Thank you so much for watching. Conversation continues at Twitter handle at NTAGMN. Thank you for watching.